So morning, everyone. Welcome to the 7 o'clock Saturday morning couple session. It's really good, and it's absolutely wonderful for us yet again to have Andre and Jen on with us this morning. We so enjoyed them last month. We're really looking forward to this morning's talk that they're going to be giving us. We're just going to say, please take note that this we are going to be doing a recording of the session this morning. So if you would like to switch your camera off, or you would like to change your name and make yourself Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse, that's 100%. If you want to stay anonymous, we are happy with that, just so that you know that it is being recorded. We don't want anyone to have any surprises. Why we record it is because if there's anyone that wants to follow up on it later, that they can do so. We're going to just hand over to Bev just to do the preamble for us this morning, and then we'll carry on. Thank you. Over to you, Bev.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of set the scene for our session this morning, we'd just like to read our preamble, and it just basically covers something that would be for your protection and for your help emotionally. So welcome to our Grace Online Couple Session meeting. This upcoming couple session will explore deeply personal and sensitive topics, including sex, sexuality, nakedness, trust, secrecy, shame, and sexual betrayal. If you are a betrayed spouse, some of this content may feel triggering or emotionally overwhelming. So please remember, a trigger is not a sign of weakness. It's just your nervous system signaling that a part of you still needs care, healing, and understanding. In a supportive group like this, triggers can be powerful opportunities. Instead of being seen as a trigger, see it as a powerful opportunity to explore our wounds with compassion, to gain deeper insight into your story, and build new paths of empathy and connection with your partner. And please remember, you're not alone on this journey. Please feel free to take breaks, step away, or process with a support person if needed. And just a disclaimer. The content shared in this session is for educational and support purposes only. While we strive to create a safe and respectful space, Grace Online cannot be held responsible for any emotional distress, discomfort, or relational tension that may arise during or after the session. Please participate at your own discretion and seek professional help if needed. And remember, most of all, ladies and gentlemen, your healing matters. Your safety matters, and your voice matters. You matter. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Bev. Appreciate that very much. So Andre is our resident sexologist. So he will be dealing with all those sort of things. We appreciate him and Jen very much as a couple. And we're really, really looking forward to what's coming this morning. We're quite excited about it. Michelle and I had a little meeting with them during the week, and the topics that he brought up, we're like, yeah. We can't wait to hear that. So we're really excited this morning. So Andre and Jen, we hand over to you, and thank you very much for doing this for us this morning. We all appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Kevin and Michelle. And thank you to everybody for allowing us into your world and into your marriage, as well as into your home this morning. We don't take this lightly. It's an absolute privilege. And whenever we are able to share about such personal issues that go right to the core of our being, we don't take it lightly. And just as Bev said, we are all seen, and each one of us is seen, and one of us needs to be seen and known. And it's just so wonderful that our Father in heaven knows us best. And so we've submitted this morning to God, and we're really just trusting and praying that you will hear what you need to hear today. That your spirit will be open to hear what the Father is saying to you for this season of your life and your marriage. We all go through seasons. Jen and I are going through a different season at the moment. And that's the beauty of monogamy and of marriage, is that we constantly are changing. We constantly being transformed. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but we're constantly being transformed. And that's that hard word, sanctification. Yeah, we're being sanctified all the time as individuals, but then obviously in our marriages as well. So we're going to start off by just doing a quick recap of our previous session. So I'll just share this. All right. So stop sharing, continue to share. There we go. So just quickly to do a recap and just to frame this, because when we speak about sexuality and sex, we wanting to create that safe space. We wanting all of us to be able to create that safe space in our homes with our spouse. And last week we looked at 4 main ways in which we do that. And firstly is to carry a biblical worldview. We're not going to go through it in much detail. If you need to, go and look at the previous cast. But so there are 4 things, and that is, that all life, all human life is sacred. Everything God made is good. Everything fell with the fall, but everything through Jesus can be redeemed, and then everything is meant to be transformed. So the world can become the kingdom of heaven on earth. All right, and then in terms of covenant, just to summarize quickly what covenant is so that we can keep that in mind. All right, covenant is a rugged commitment. It's a commitment that is not dependent on behaviors or anything like that. It is a rugged commitment. It is a commitment for now. It's for the present. It is advocating. It is that God is always in our corner, and as spouses, we are always in each other's corner. And then finally, it is always transforming. It's always evolving. And that is what covenant is. If we have that, if we sense, and Jen said it last time, it's like a bowl that we can put everything in. That covenant is the bowl that keeps everything safe. And then we spoke about sexuality being completely natural. None of us chose to have a sexuality. And it's a broad term, but it's completely natural. And then we spoke about sex, that sex is precious, sex is sacred, and sex is like worship. So if we have these 4, in a sense, they're checkpoints, they're check-ins. If we can really think, are we actually instilling these 4 things in our marriage, then we'll find that there is safety. We'll find that we are able to be more vulnerable. We are able to become more intimate. And I think that for us is so crucial, that sex is all about intimacy. And Jen's going to say what intimacy is.
So intimacy is really knowing and being known. So knowing somebody else's story, knowing them, but also being known. And I think as Andre was talking through these points, he was saying covenant is always this and always that. And I think that's why we are all here, because always doesn't apply always. We in that space where we realize we need to get known. We need to learn to know ourselves so that we can allow the other person to know us. How do we let someone know us unless we tell them? The Bible says, who knows the thoughts of a man except the spirit of the man? And well, meaning woman as well. So, and I think that's it, that God loves us intimately. He knows us better than we know ourselves. So we are known, and we get to know him, and we get to know others, and we get to grow in love by knowing and being known. So that is what intimacy is. It's not just sexual intimacy.
No.
It's about your heart being open and kind of undressed before each other, before friends, before people. And as we get to know people more, the intimacy can improve.
Yeah.
So that's part of the journey we all on, is knowing our stories, getting to know ourselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then how do we deal with the bad and ugly? And to become more loving of ourselves, our families, our neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, Jen's just going to recap the whole image of the vine.
Yes, so basically we're born into a situation, a land, a country, a family. We don't choose where our little spirits get wrapped in skin somewhere in the world on this planet. And we're born into the soil. We're born of dust, dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We arrive, start there, and we return there. And that's where Adam was born of dust. So we just realize then we get roots that grow as we were seeded in our families and started to germinate. At a later stage, we'll go through the specifics of the in utero experience and then the birth experience, which would have affected how we feel as a human being, where we wanted, not wanted, do we carry abandonment, whatever. Then going through to sort of age 2, 3, learning to get control of our own bodies, and also trust being developed in those early years. So today we talk about trust. It's in those early years that trust is developed, and then carries all the way through trust in relationships. So then as we grow through, school age and into puberty, there's a whole lot of things we impacted. As we said, sexuality is impacted by your environment, your family, your law, the legal things, everything. And as you grow up, and then the fruit is there for the picking. And when you have sex, it's taking that fruit and sharing it with each other. So there's trust involved in this whole process of one's life, where you've been planted and how you work out your own being, who you are, why you're on the planet, and yes, how loved you are, and learning to love.
Yeah. And in a perfect world, each one of these steps would have included somebody or people in our lives that wanted to know us and that were willing for us to know them. And it's when there's been the fractures, those fractures in our lives, where we've had moments when people have not, well, where we've been neglected or we've neglected others and not allowed them in, that we create this intimacy dysfunction within us. And that's what we're really wanting to deal with today. And sexuality addiction is actually an intimacy dysfunction. So that's the bottom line.
So say that again.
Okay, sexual addiction is intimacy dysfunction. All right? It's believing that I'm knowing and being known in a way that is helpful to me, but it's not. All right? And so we've got to constantly ask ourselves, do I know myself? Do I know God? Do I know my Creator? And then am I being true to that so that I can present that to others and then also know them and create a space where people can know their true self and not live with all of the masks, not live with all of the scaffolding that we put up around ourselves to try and hide things. And so that's what intimacy is all about. And so we are setting the platform for us to say, now we can look at sex, all right? Because we've got this understanding of intimacy. We know that there will be times in our lives where intimacy has not been there and where there has been dysfunctionality. We all have it, folks. It's not just some of us. We all have these spaces in our lives where there's been intimacy dysfunction. Okay, so we're all in that boat of needing to look at it and take responsibility for it. Okay, but we want to just say one last way in which we can really set a good foundation in terms of the sexual act. Not one last way, the second last way, all right, is for us to remember that we are male and female, all right? And we told that in Genesis 1:27, that God made man in his image. We are the pinnacle of his creation, which is incredible. And he made male and female. He didn't just make one. And it's helpful for us to realize how complementary men and women are. Because if we go back to the original Hebrew for male and female, okay, it is ish. So women, you can say to your husband, Ishman. You're actually saying ish. You're going back to the first word for Adam, all right, ish. And I don't know about guys, we can say iska. But so Iska is female, all right? But if we look at how men are made, all right? They are made to remember. Women think that's mad. But anyway, men are
No,
made to remember.
when men forget, it goes wrong because man
Yeah.
is made to remember.
Yeah, okay.
So these are the meanings of the word ish.
Yeah, okay. He moves to create significance. He penetrates. And that's not only anatomically or physiologically, okay? He also moves things forwards, all right? He brings life change. He lifts and carries, that is physically because of the testosterone that he tends to have more than women, and that he shifts things forward, all right? So these descriptors of a man are not about what he does. It's about how he will do things, okay? Now, we see that's part of the puzzle. Now we've got women, and she is made to receive. She accepts. She is punctured and bored through. Again, that's not just anatomically, all right? She's so sensitive. She is so easily punctured, all right? That's why men, when we go home and tell our wives how bad a day we've had, she feels so punctured and down on our behalf, and we want to say, no, it's my feeling, all right? But that's how she's made, all right? She's punctured, she's bored through. She nurtures, she sustains, and she nourishes, okay? Again, it's not what women do. It's who women are and how they're going to live life. All right.
Can I give an example?
Yes.
So, for example, we had a friend of ours, she's now passed from cancer, but she was the brain behind the mining in Durban. So here was a woman working in the field of mining, very effective at moving things, not moving things forward, but carrying the compassion for communities around what happens on the mines. And so it's not acting in the traditional nurturing role, and yet she was nurturing whole communities. So it's not what you do, but it's that the tendency of men and women to be like that.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, so even in the gay communities where they've done studies about different communities of same-sex attracted people, and what happens is amongst the men, there are certain rules and certain ways to move things forward, and that's very direct as to how things will happen. Amongst women, it's very nurturing and caring and everyone looking after each other and each other's children. So there, even in a same-sex thing where obviously there's been a lot of pain in those people's lives, is that because it feels safer to be in those communities, they are still behaving as Ish and Iska, as men and women.
Yeah.
And then you take someone who's like a male, he's a male hairstylist. He is taking disorder and making order. He is moving something forward. If he's taking a messed up bunch of hair and cutting it up, making it look beautiful, making it look messy on purpose, that is a way of bringing order. So once again, it's just to show that being a man is not about what you do, what you like to do. That's more about masculinity and femininity. It's not male and female. So yeah.
So I think in this, it's we helping everybody to realize we were made actually to connect. There's almost like we are these magnets, the north and south polars we were made to connect. All right. God, that's how he created us. And obviously we're not just speaking about the sexual act, but we were made to connect as men and women. All right.
As communities.
And that's why when God said he created a helper for man, all right, we look at that word helper and it means Urza, right? And that is the meaning of a woman being like a military force that will protect and guard, all right? And so
it's the first line of defense.
It's the first line of defense.
That the meaning of that word is woman is the first line of defense.
So many people misread it and say that the man is the one who stands and is, going to protect everything. Well, actually, the man needs his wife so much. It's crucial that he has her there to be part of that protection for the family as well. But anyway, so that is spiritually.
So sometimes women, we have intuition, and we can also then, the warped side of that is that we can also be the first line of attack. And I know that for myself, but also how do we take that first line of protection and use the woman's intuition to protect our husbands? Like, excuse me, do you realize that that woman's hitting on you? Or whatever, you know, being married to a pastor, you have to get used to that. People love to fall in love with pastors. Because and if you're in the helps ministry anywhere, you know, as a man or a woman. But so just to say, that's for the ladies and
Yeah.
men as well.
So now this is the last thing before we get into sex, okay? And it's good for us to realize 1 Corinthians 13 becomes the basis for us to know what is good, what is helpful in a sexual relationship. Okay? Love, and we can say sex. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Okay? And we can really put sex there. All right? In our marriages, when I'm thinking about maybe we're going to have sex tonight or today, I've really got to ask myself, is this patient, kind? Is it envying? Is it wanting to be proud? Is it wanting to keep a record of wrongs? All of these are just beautiful ways in which we can check our own hearts. And I want to really encourage us, let's use this to check our own hearts, not each other's. All right? Yeah. But I think if I know that's Jen's intention, I'm going to have more freedom to love her and vice versa. But me pointing fingers is not going to help either.
It's also, that also shows us how to be kind. Okay, well, we've got this desire. How are we going to be kind to the person? Or we have no desire. You know, how are we going to be kind to our spouse? So all of these things are there as a protection as well, because, you know, often people say to us, well, what kind of sex can we have? Well, it's your marriage. It's your sacred bed. What is patient? What is loving? What is kind? That then becomes the protection instead of rules. So we want to get away from rules and laws and into love. What does love look like for your marriage?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to jump into the sexual cycle. All right. This is a sexual cycle, and it's, you know, it's been created over lots and lots of years. And it starts, well, you'll see on the x-axis, you have time. On the y-axis, you have excitement, all right? And just to say that the time axis isn't exactly according to those times allocated there, all right? But we'll explain those later on. Okay, so it starts off with desire, all right? And desire is the longest, can be the longest, but not always the longest part of the sexual cycle, all right? Desire can be a day, it can be a few days, it can be 5 minutes. We can't put rules on this, all right? But desire is one of the, if not the biggest problem concerning sex in marriage, all right? You'll always have a high desire partner and a low desire partner. It is extremely rare that you have equal desire partners, okay? And so, but I also see, we see God in this, because he says love is kind and patient. So it helps us to actually implement that, because when I have a high desire, Jen has a low desire, we need to look at each other, and we've actually got to say, how can we love each other? How can we bring our desires to the same place? Okay. And we're going to do a whole session on that, because actually leveling out and bringing into tandem the desire levels, there are lots of ways in which we can do that. But desire it starts in the same part of the brain as pain. Okay. And so that is something that we've got to realize. If there's no desire in your marriage for sex, there's pain. And it's not for us to point out the pain and say, oh, you that again. No, it's for us to understand, get underneath, and discuss it. Try and work out what is the real nub of this pain. How can I love? How can I pray? How can I support? But really understanding pain, okay? That switches over into desire very quickly.
So that is where, as you're talking about trust, is that there's an onus on all of us to deal with our own pain, that we learn to self-soothe. That's something all of us should have learned as children, excuse me, so that we can deal with that out of kindness to our spouse. We're not expecting them to fulfill that pain. We're not putting an onus on them to fix our pain. You know, that's something, an onus on us. And then also to say that the high and low desire can switch. You know, it's not just this person's high desire, that person's a low desire person. Yeah, sometimes it's, you know, you go through seasons where just because of life and certain circumstances and things. But that thing can switch, you know, that one person is a low desire person, next time they're the high desire. So it's not just what, you know, each person.
Different seasons. It switches, obviously, also with our hormonal changes. It switches as well.
And switches back.
So that's desire. All right. Then we go to excitement. All right. And excitement it's governed by adrenaline. All right. And if we understand that adrenaline makes our heart pump faster, and it also causes blood to flow to different parts of our bodies. And for men, it's pretty clear where it flows to. For women, it's not always clear where it flows to. And many women don't know that they are sexually aroused, all right? And it's only once they start engaging in sex that they realize, oh, wow, okay, yes, blood did flow, all right? So it's different between men and women, but this is what is happening during the excitement phase, all right? Obviously, for men, this can be quite disconcerting if there's erectile dysfunction and things like that. And we always say, if there's a problem in in part of this sexual cycle, you start with the physical first before you go to the psychological and then the spiritual, okay? You always start with the physical. If there's an erectile dysfunction problem, if there's a problem for the wife in terms of pain, you don't go to the psychological first. You go and have it checked out physically first, okay? And you deal with that, then you deal with the psychology. All right, so that's excitement, all right? And all the blood has flown to where it needs to go.
In the future, we will do a proper biology lesson, perhaps in 2 months' time. Yeah, we'll put that in.
Okay. And then we go to plateau. All right. And plateau is governed by endorphins. All right. And I always call those hormones the dolphins. They're always smiling. All right. They're always invincible. You know, it's really irritating when you look at dolphins. They're never down. Okay. But anyway, these are endorphins. All right. So when we enter the plateau phase of the sexual cycle, we feel invincible. There's this sense of just this, we feel so good. I always tell husbands, I always tell wives, you wait until your husband is in the plateau phase, and then you ask him anything, and you ask him for anything, and he'll say, yes, dear, it's just, yeah. All right, so...
yes, let's move on.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the plateau phase. And it tends also to happen in terms of penetrative sex. Once penetration may have happened, or it happens during this phase. Okay. And then once you've gone through plateau, then you go to orgasm. And here you have the release of oxytocin and vasopressin. All right. So orgasm is the shortest, believe it or not, it's the shortest part of the sexual cycle. All right. But for many of us, orgasm has hijacked the sexual act. And that's what we've got to change that, because orgasm should not hijack all of these other beautiful things: desire, excitement, plateau, and resolution. We'll get there now. Okay, so oxytocin and vasopressin, okay, they are attachment hormones, right? And if I've got two pieces of paper and I use Prit and I stick them together, all right, think of that as being oxytocin, all right? Whenever orgasm is experienced, all right, and whenever orgasm is experienced, we stick to the person. We are attached, all right? And apparently this hormone is extremely powerful, but it's a terrible discriminator of what we are attaching to, all right? Okay, so oxytocin causes, and vasopressin causes this attachment. And you've all heard of soul ties and things like that. Now we understand that soul ties are not only the result of a psychological or spiritual issue, they actually are a hormonal issue as well. All right? They cause us to stick. All right? So when we part in an unhealthy way, we are going to cause a tearing, and often we are going to have parts of the other person stuck to me. Okay. But guys, this is so exciting, because in God's plan, we're meant to have lots of sex so that we can attach over and over and over and over. All right. That is the beauty of it. And so this has huge implications for sexuality addiction, for masturbation and all those kinds of things. All right. But we've now got to see the power of it and why God gave it to us. And we've got to maximize the power of it instead of always seeing it as the baddie. Okay. Attachment is a good thing, actually. Right. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just saying, so that attachment could also be to an image or to a circumstance. And I think, as we mentioned some of this last time, but just in recapping that, often if the attachment is unwholesome, then what happens straight afterwards is there is shame. There's guilt and shame. And that guilt and shame then just creates a darkness in which one wants to hide.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing by talking about these things is, how do we bring this into the light? Let's look at what God created for healthy attachment. And so for all of us, it's that space of how do we get our marriages into a place of healthy attachment so that there's no shame. It's the opposite of shame. We get the love and that connection and that the need to want to stay connected and to be continually connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then we go to resolution. Okay. And resolution is where all of the heightened bodily functions and the physiology that has changed as a result of all of this, that now returns to homeostasis or back to normal. And so that is a beautiful time. That is a reconnecting time. When you look at the courtship cycle, which we'll look at briefly later, they actually say, and this is research says, that sex is meant to reconnect and cause renewal. And that is often what happens in the resolution phase. And many men think they just need to turn over and fall asleep. But actually, this is a crucial time just to actually renew and to consider what has happened, that you have committed, you've given yourself completely to each other. It is such a beautiful time and building into the marriage. Okay, so this is healthy sex, folks. All right, and
this is more a reflection of what happens with males, in this thing. So it is for females. It is the same release of the hormones. What happens when the man goes to the refractory phase? For women, that's not refractory time. That is time still, the sexual desire is still there. And that's when women are very vulnerable.
You raised something I haven't raised. Thank you. So men during resolution will go through a refractory phase, which means that they cannot be aroused. Okay, they just can't get it up. All right. Whereas for women, they don't go through that.
Women are still aroused.
Women are still aroused
after orgasm.
And we need to respect that. We need to honor that. And that is why the resolution phase is often ignored, but it's a very important phase to build intimacy and closeness in a couple. Okay. So this, and Jen was saying that this is more typical of men, all right? Because men...
This diagram is...
This diagram, yeah. If we, and I haven't got the diagram here, we'll show it at another time. If we look at the sexual cycle typical of women, it doesn't have orgasm on it, believe it or not, all right? And most men will say, what the heck, all right? But orgasm is not the ultimate. I'm not saying it's not important. It's not the ultimate expectation for sex for women.
It's not the end goal necessarily. It's
Right.
about feeling the love, that desire, that being desired.
And that's just one of the differences between men and women. But again, we are polar opposites that are magnetized. Isn't it beautiful that it's not that for women so that men can grow? Isn't it beautiful that it is for men so women can grow? Right? And that's the beauty behind it. If we look at the sexual cycle, and we did say this a bit last time, when we look at women, all right, women tend to value and appreciate and enjoy desire, plateau, and resolution the most. Okay? Men, in general, tend to enjoy excitement and orgasm the most. Right. So this is obviously generalizing. And as we said earlier, we all have different seasons, and there will be seasons where it's not this. But this is in general. But I think we're just focusing on how complementary the sexual act is. How there needs to be the outworking of 1 Corinthians 13. Because as a man, I need to plow into desire. As a woman, Jen needs to plow into excitement. Okay?
Or if I want to be kind.
If you want to be kind, and you always do. All right, you always are. All right. And as a man, I need to keep myself from going into the orgasmic phase too soon. That is loving my wife. All right? As a wife, she needs to celebrate orgasm and the orgasm that her husband has. And so that is just how beautifully God has made the sexual act and why it is so bonding, why it creates this beautiful attachment at the end of the day. Right, Jen.
So later on, there's towards the end of our talk today, we're going to be talking about touch. And this is where we're going to look at sometimes for a woman, touching herself. Some of you might say that is really bad, or for men as well. Touching yourself is really bad or really good, or whatever. God said it is all good. Yes, it's all fallen, but everything can be restored. But do you not think that we were created with certain nerve endings in certain places for certain feelings, for arousal? And how could we use that arousal for the kindness of our spouse? And this is where there's a lot of shame, particularly coming through churches, around masturbation and about self-touching. Also for singles. I know it's a marriage course, but for singles, it's not like if you're single, you don't have a sexuality. You don't have this normal hormonal exchange that goes on in your bodies and the normal circadian rhythms as well. So, just to say, it might be a place where you need to open your mind to, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. How do I be kind to my husband? So a woman may need to touch herself to be aroused, or a man may need to you know, to
Be
touch
aware of
himself
what
as a
he
way of
mustn't touch.
yeah, or know where to touch his wife, to get her aroused, to increase the desire, and that may be completely non-sexual parts. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as to how do we create this kindness so we can build a trust with each other.
Okay. Right. Jen's going to talk about sexual frequency.
Yeah, so frequency, it's a little bit strange. There's like a timeline along the bottom. And if just to say that the women's period actually starts in the 4th section of the time, the last week of time. And so the first part of desire, so for men, you can see it's pretty consistently the natural rhythm of a man in his prime is to want orgasm at least twice a week. Okay, now some guys go, oh, twice a day, and others will go, oh, twice a month. But anyway, so it differs from people, but this is just what healthy, and it's a generalization according to certain norms and the hormones that go on in your body. So I didn't mean to say hormones, but hormones, yes. So, and then for a woman, it's really twice a month. So the first time, it's not just one little peak of a day, it is the whole week of ovulation. The hormones all change in your body, getting ready actually for ovulation to receive. Remember, a woman receives and carries. It's ready for becoming pregnant, actually. And so the desire for women is heightened during ovulation. Okay. And if you've got children, that's something your teenage girls need to know, that the ability to say no will be heightened during ovulation. And then again, just before the period, there's another little peak of a day or two of greater desire. And that's why women get the munchies before the period. You just want to eat everything. That's a need for comfort.
You actually want sex.
We want sex. Yeah, it's a desire. So it's, and you can see, isn't God fascinating? But he creates these man and woman, to be complementary. Yeah, one's an outie and one's an innie, like a puzzle. Okay, but sorry, Andre. But you can see, why would he make it so different? You've got to be communication. And this is where 1 Corinthians 13 comes back. How do you be kind? You understand the man's natural desires. It's like our natural desire to fall asleep when the lights go out. If we're camping and we're around a fire, when the sun goes down, it's natural to be tired, to want to sleep. And when the sun comes up, to wake up, all else being right and healthy. And it's the same here. It's a natural rhythm for men and women.
Yeah. So quickly, I just wanted to reiterate that for women, they obviously can have multiple orgasms. All right. And
not obviously. Did you know women can have multiple orgasms and in different places on the body, which will come out in the anatomy lesson
all right.
in the future.
Okay. So Jen, give your alert.
Oh yes, warning, this picture triggers me every time because I've had sexual abuse as a child and a whole lot of stuff. So be warned. I know there was a disclaimer before, but there's a very graphic biological picture coming up.
Okay.
Of the genitals.
Okay. So the only reason we are telling you this, showing you this.
This from not van bo af, van onder af, if I can say. Yeah.
Okay, of the genitals, yes. All right. So on the left-hand side, you obviously have the male penis. On the right, you have the female genitalia underneath. Okay. And the reason we're showing you this is for the colors. So I hope you have a color monitor. All right.
When you're not colorblind.
Okay. So you'll see you've got yellow, blue, green, and then you've got sort of like a purple color. All right. And then you've got red. Okay. So why are we showing you this? At 6 to 8 weeks in the womb, the chromosomal makeup of the fetus causes the different muscles and skin textures and sensitivities to change into either male or female. Okay, so at 6 to 8 weeks in the womb, you'll see the yellow part on the penis is the glans penis. All right, but if you have XX chromosome, it becomes a little girl's glans of her clitoris. Okay, you see that? It's yellow. Then we go to, let's look at the purple spot. All right, and that's the male scrotum. All right, and then we see that it then makes the labia majora, okay, the outer lips of the female vulva. All right, then you'll see at the top there, you've got the foreskin, which is green, right? And there you'll see in the woman, it's the foreskin for the clitoris. Okay, now all we are saying is it reiterates the fact that we actually have the same feeling and sensation, okay, to each other, and we've got to know where it is. Okay, so I can know that the way I feel on my glans penis is the way Jen will feel on her glans clitoris. And I know that if that gets played with too much at the wrong time, okay, it's very uncomfortable and I actually get turned off. And it's exactly the same for the woman. All right. But it's really good to know that the scrotum, all right, the feeling of the scrotum, how painful it can be, how sensitive it can be, is how a woman's labia majora feel. Okay? And so we start understanding how can we best stimulate and love each other by understanding what kind of sensitivity is that, and sensation is had at each part of the genitalia. All right. Again, we're just looking at how beautifully complementary God made us. And he also gives us clues on how we really do feel. Okay? We're not such a mystery to each other at the end of the day. We've just got to learn. Okay. Right. We're now going to just say another way to just build trust in sex is to go back to basics. All right? And now we're going to look at the courtship cycle. All right? And in marriage, we can obviously do the full 12 stages of the courtship cycle. All right? Starting at noticing all the way to renewal, which includes the sexual act. All right? So if you look on this diagram, we've got the sexual act. Well, it could actually include foreplay. That is what is seen over there in brown. Okay, but why are we focusing on stations 1 to 9 is that often we forget about 1 to 9 and we think we must just jump into intercourse, commitment, and renewal. All right? And so as couples, we would really want to encourage everybody to really start looking at these different stages, and maybe every week take one and actually start developing it. All right. So it starts with noticing. All right. Just actually not just looking and noticing, but speaking. What do you see? All right. I see Jen's beautiful hair. I see her beautiful nose. All right. I don't only see her beautiful bottom, which becomes sexual.
And you can hear, that's so man. All I look at Andre and I see kindness. I see compassion. And because we are so different, the way we notice each other and the way we can praise in our minds, because we're choosing thoughts as we're noticing. Are they praising or are they criticizing?
But we also need to be kind sometimes. Jen does need to say it sometimes. Wow, I love those muscles. Yes. And there are times I need to say, I just love your compassion and the way that you deal with our grandchildren.
Yeah.
All right. So it's
that's
noticing. That's an yes, it can be. Yes. Okay. So that's noticing, attraction. All right. Now you are saying, wow, I do like that. You know, that is maybe looking at the sexual parts. That is looking at the legs, or that's where some people have fetishes, you know. I don't think I have a fetish, but I love hair and I love Jennifer's hair. All right. But that's attraction. Then we go to flirtation. And unfortunately, we've had to counsel many single people how to flirt. All right. Because we've put such a big X through flirting. But actually, we do it all the time. All right. And we've got to know as much as when we are being flirted at as how to flirt. Okay. And so we can develop flirting in our marriages. We need to develop the demonstration of our love. All right. A nice chocolate, a rose, a supper, whatever, a demonstration, going out for a quick coffee together, demonstrating I want to be with you. All right. Then there's romance. Okay. And those are the moments where we're just wanting to create an environment which is very exclusive, very specific, and it causes the heart to flutter. All right. There's adrenaline involved in romance. Then there's individuation. And that is where a couple, where if you stay in romance for too long, okay, you're actually going to die because there's too much adrenaline going. All right. And so individuation is where you actually have to separate and you start looking at each other more objectively. All right. And valuing each other more. Okay. That is individuation. All right. And then you go to intimacy. And that is what we've been speaking about, knowing and being known. And that is where you just ask each other, gee whiskers, when was the first time you burnt your hand? All right. Or when was the first time you walked on the grass with bare feet, or that you remember it? Okay. So that's intimacy. Then we get to touching. All right.
The intimacy can also be, I feel this about my family, or I felt like that when I was a child. You know, it's also that vulnerability of emotion. And as you become emotionally vulnerable, that also then makes place to attach.
Yeah. And then we go to touching, and then foreplay, and then we have the sexual act. All right. So, so what we are saying is, if we're going to create safety in our marriage, all right, we've got to remember stations 1 to 8 as well as 9 to 12. Okay. And I please just go and read up on the internet if you need to know, how do I notice myself and my wife better? All right. How do I flirt better? How do I demonstrate my love better? What can I do to create romance? All right. Let's realize that sex is the culmination of all of 1 to 9.
Before you go to the internet, you can also, those who have a faith, well, everyone has a faith, whatever faith you have, is to ask God.
Yeah.
How do I notice Andre? Who knows Andre better than the Lord himself?
Yeah.
And so I think this is where it's really helpful to bring your faith into all these stages. And to, before you could be intimate with each other, is knowing how, like in terms of emotional intimacy, you know, to say, well, Lord, what do you know about me that I should know? I mean, it says God knows what we're going to pray before we even pray it. And now so a good question to ask is, well, God, what do you know about me that I don't know? Or what do you know about Andre that I would be helpful for me to know?
Okay, now we're going to go to touching, and we're going to do this quickly because we have 3 minutes to do it. Okay, all right. So Jen, quickly just explain different kinds of touch for us.
We'll go into this more next time as well, because it's desire and touch. So we have, the first of all is functional touch. That is, say I'm visually impaired, so I need Andre to sometimes help me, you know, to say there's the steps here, whatever, or let's not fall in a hole. Then you've got sort of rehabilitative touch. That's generally medical. Usually there's a lot of trust around that because of someone's profession. And that kind of touch can be painful or whatever.
Physiotherapists.
Yeah. And then the third type of touch is a caring touch. You know, when you just say, hi, you know, how are you doing? And you know, you just want to touch just to show that you care. And then the next one is essential touch. Essential, it's essential, depending on your touch script, which we'll talk about, whether that was irritating or helpful. And that is that it makes your senses alive, but not yet erotic. And then you get to the erotic touch, which then causes blood to flow to different parts of the body for arousal. So that's why when we looked at the courtship cycle, you stop before erotic touch. If, like, the youngsters, whatever, how can they flirt? And anyway, I'm going off topic.
Marriage.
You talk about marriage. there's erotic touch, and then from there we start to get into sexual touch. Yeah.
So I think, you know, just having those 6 descriptors of touch, that can be a wonderful way to develop intimacy with your spouse. All right. For me to have learned that Jen holding my arm when I show her around a mall is not sexual was very important.
We actually say, is this functional or relational?
You
Okay,
know?
then I'll say functional touch and hold his arm or his hand, and then he'll say relational and squeeze my hand.
And sometimes I say, the way you're holding my hand is so sensual. Oh, but anyway, and then to understand, you know, when Jen has to be the physiotherapist to me, I mustn't expect for her to think that things are going to come out of this. I've got to know it is rehabilitative, and to know what kind of touch that is for everyone, because all of us, it's different, okay? For caring touch, there's some kind of touch, if I show it as caring for Jen, she will say, oh, you're being soppy, stop it now. Because of her script.
Because of my story.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so you start realizing that all of us have a very unique touch script. We can't say that this kind of touch is caring touch for everyone. Sensual touch, don't touch my feet. No,
I
But
love
for
my feet
Jen,
touched.
I will massage her feet. It's so sensual.
And
it's marvelous.
so kind. Yeah,
right?
it's so relaxing.
So it's learning those things. Erotic touch. This is so important for us to know when we want each other to be aroused. Okay, and then how to develop that kind of touch, and then finally sexual touch. And we can go into that in lots of detail in future. All right.
So next time we're talking about desire, and so we can recap on this and just go into a little bit more depth about touch and give some touch homework as well. So even perhaps now you'd begin of things you can talk about during the week or during the month is recognizing how you were soothed as a child, what kind of touch was soothing, and what kind of touch was really offensive to you, and why.
Yeah. Okay. That's our story.
Brilliant, guys. Thank you so much. I've been nudging Michelle here. She's been nudging me here on the side here. So we walked away with some really good stuff today. We're so chuffed. Really good.
We were even saying when you brought up the rubbing of the feet, I said to Kevin, so like it's learning things as we go along. So I said to Kevin, I love my feet being touched. And he said, is that a caring touch for you or a sensual touch? So I was like, no, that's a caring touch. And I said to him at that moment, do you like your feet being rubbed? Because we've been married 31 years and I've never asked him that question. Do you love your feet being rubbed? And he was like, no, not really.
I'll have it done at a foot massage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even in this moment with you guys teaching us, like my takeaway and my note to everybody else is we've been married for 31 years and we don't have it all together. No. We are still learning. Yeah. We're still learning our new seasons. We're still learning. And so for me, Andre and Jen, this is like fantastic. One of these series is that you've got to wait for the next one before you can like get to hear more.
So we just want to binge watch. So just put it on a series and then we can binge watch.
Exactly. So we're going to open the discussion now. If anybody's got any questions, if they've got any takeaways, if you can post it in on the chat, then we're going to open it for questions and takeaways.
No, I just want to say my takeaway for today was very much also towards, well, actually the whole thing, but towards the end for me, that number's 1 to 8. You know, we just don't seem to do that anymore. You know, when you're dating and all of that, 1 to 8 you do all the time because you can't get to 9, 10, 11, and 12. So you're doing the 1 to 8s. But when you get married, you sort of skip the 1 to 8s and think we can just go 9, 10, 11, 12. We're in. You know, and it's really, that was an eye-opener for me today, that we need to head back to that and like you say, actually learn it again, because you forget. You know, it's they say it's like riding a bicycle, but I don't know so much. Sometimes the bicycles are different. So you got to learn the whole thing all over again, you know. So I really enjoyed that part of it for me too.
It's good. It's good.
Kenneth,
Also,
Kenneth.
it says, what is the impact of going for a massage, touch from a stranger, re-emotional connection?
That's a great question. And I think one needs to, this is where we need to be self-aware in terms of our touch script. We need to know when we are moving from sensual touch to erotic touch.
from rehabilitative.
Well, rehabilitative to sensual to erotic.
Yeah.
All right. If we are going, if we are, and this is where we've got to ask ourselves, if we are going for a massage because it's going to make us go to sensual quickly and become aroused, then we've got to actually question our purpose, our reason. But a massage is and I would say it's a place where I'm wanting to de-stress, and that will include sensual touch. It will include the sensitizing of my sensory system. But there is a point at which I know it can't go further. And that is where, you know, any good massage person will say, do you want hard, light, or deep, or whatever they call it? And I would say take the one higher than you know, will take you to a sensual space. All right. So for me, that is medium, because I can't cope with the hard or the heavy. But I think that's a very, very good point. And I obviously have counseled people where the whole massage thing has gone pear-shaped. All right. And so we do need to be aware of that. And we've got to know why we are going and make sure our massage person knows what you want. Okay.
And also to reassure your spouse as well. Then I went for a massage today. Actually, there was nothing sexual about it. It was painful or whatever. So I think that is important, just to keep open comms with each other.
I've got a question for you. In that slide that you had with the difference between the male, the ish and the iska, you said that the female is bored through. Now, what does bored through mean?
Okay.
A bore is a drill.
Okay.
It's not bored as in bored,
No,
like
not
fiddling your son.
No, it's not B-O-R-E-D.
No.
It's not bored through like, I'm so bored.
Okay,
like...
so very crassly, she has a hole. Okay. But obviously it's not, and that's why I say it's not only anatomically.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, anatomically that is the case. And that is why the man is the penetrator, because anatomically he penetrates. All right. But there's obviously just so much more involved in that she's easily punctured. She can, because she has that sense, she's the seat of nurture and receiving. She's so easily punctured, which also speaks to that term bored through. Yeah.
So, Andrew, would you say she carries hurt more deeply then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, that's something for men to realize, but it's also something for women to realize. Just as much as men need to know, you know, what I do is going to hurt easily. Yeah. There's got to be a point at which Jen needs to realize she can let go of it now. It's not hers to carry anymore. It's not helpful. Yeah. So it works both ways.
And that's where don't keep a record of wrongs. So if you've got that thing, one's the drill bit, one is the hole. Once the drill bit is out of the wood, you know, you've still got the hole remains. And I think that's it with women. There's that sense of remaining. We can remain. So when it comes to the sexual cycle, we can also remain for longer. But also when something impacts us, it can remain with us. It's quite difficult. You know, that's why we need each other, you know.
That's why you need the Holy Spirit to fill it up.
Yeah. And we need intimacy with each other to say, okay, well, I'll meet you in this space where you feel empty, I can say.
Brilliant.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has any
other
questions?
Nothing. I'm not seeing anything in the chats.
There's one more thing I was going to say, that like talking about, I like my feet rubbed or you like your feet rubbed, for everyone to share those things, but then to go one step further and say why. And you may not know why. So then you take it to prayer. Why do I feel this? And you'll find a story unpacks.
I don't like my feet being rubbed because when I was at boarding school as a child, Zimbabwe went through a lack of socks.
A shortage.
So you couldn't get any socks. So everybody had 2 pairs of socks. And I had athlete's foot as well. So you can imagine the stench, and it was like the worst thing
boarding school
that anybody
socks.
could do was touch my feet. And yeah, I've got to get over that. And I think I have.
Yeah.
But that was why it was like just a huge reaction. Don't you come near my feet. And it's very interesting that ticklishness is said to be one of the biggest problems in terms of the sexual act.
Desire problems.
So understanding why you are ticklish, where you are ticklish, regulating your emotions around it is really helpful. But that's like a conversation as well.
Yeah, thanks for that amazing session. I really enjoyed it. I think I also have to say that in the last 12 years of Grace Online's existence dealing with problematic sexual behavior, I don't think ever have the words clitoris and glans penis been used more frequently than what they have been in one session. So well done on you guys. That was awesome. Really appreciated your session, Andre and Jen. And that record-breaking moment was absolutely amazing as well. I really enjoyed just talking about this stuff. I think it's so important to bring it into the open. And also, some of the people may have seen that I was blushing and I was adjusting my collar here a bit at the pictures and stuff, but that wasn't too much. So I really appreciate everything that you've shown here, the medical diagrams. They were done with dignity and clarity, and there's a lot of comfort. I really appreciate the effort in all of this. You guys walked us also through that, the normal sexual cycle. That was also something that's super amazing. And I think this has been one of the most eye-opening parts that was that resolution phase. And that and the bonding chemicals, the oxytocin, the vasopressin, the surge, and all of that. So it was also very amazing. So it's good to understand this, and it's good to also understand the opposite physical connections that you guys so clearly demonstrated. I also enjoyed you reminding us of something that's very easily forgotten, I think also in long-term relationships, and that is the courtship cycle. We also talk about in Grace Online. The early emotional touch points, the buildup of connection before anything physical happens. We explore that stuff in great depth once the foundation of that emotional safety teaching men to themselves and then with their partners, then with the community and then with their partners. That was also something that was super amazing. But I just wanted to quickly take this opportunity to thank you guys, but also to let everybody know that we are going to launch a brand new relationship recovery group, which will be happening every second Friday of the month. For this month, it will be on the 15th of August. And I think this, Andre, Jen, this is going to be a very sacred space led by you guys. And I think this is going to be an awesome opportunity for couples to learn and to grow and to reconnect with themselves deeply. It's obviously it's not going to be therapy. It's a group experience, and we're not going to put anybody on the spot. And it's a space for intentional healing and restoration within a community that is willing to walk the same road. So for everybody here, this is launching on Friday the 15th, and it will be early in the morning from 5:30 to about 7 o'clock. And then we're going to meet every second Friday going forward. We'll discuss the details at that launch. So if there's anybody that's interested in joining that, there's going to be a bit of an application process, mainly because there's been so many people, and I think the need's going to be overwhelmingly too much, too high. You know, there's going to be so many people that would like to be part of this. So I've asked Chris to post the application form link in the chat. I just wanted to share this quickly before the questions come in. So if anybody's interested in that, you could just click on that link in the chat right now, or make contact with me directly, and then we'll give you all the details. There's going to be a bit of an interview process because we want to make sure that the right people are in this. So every couple will go through that short interview to make sure that you are the right space, that you're the right, so that we can get the right people in on this. So we'd love to hear from anybody. If there's something that's stirring in your heart, if there's any questions or any feedback or anything else from after the session here this morning. So appreciate what is happening, you know, in our bodies, you know, this amazing instrument that God has blessed us with. So yeah, thanks so much.